I'm Shamik, and what I'm going to be talking about is I've actually taken the title of your meetup called XaaS and reframed it as expertise as a service, right? So I'll talk a little bit about what I mean by this, but before I get into it, I think it's important to explain my background, because the background will tell you a little bit about how my thoughts have come to be framed in the way that I'll be talking about them. Great, so a little bit about myself. I spent most of my career, about 15 years in the Bay Area, as an entrepreneur. I started a company in the enterprise security services space. So for those people here who have worked in the services background, I have spent, a lot of time in that world, selling to Merrill Lynch and Hartford Insurance in Cleveland and making all those meetings with procurement officers and all of that. Through a tough time, through the 2001 crisis, and then recovering, and then selling the company to Oracle. Okay. So I've been in that world, and I have not been in that world since because I did not enjoy it. Okay. After that, after a string of other companies in the consumer internet space, I moved back to India in 2012 and as the Chief Technology and Product Officer at Myntra. And then I left that in 2016, and the last 2-3 years I have been an angel investor, I've been a VC. I like to be hands-on as well. So I started a venture studio called Craftworks. If I had to describe myself, I'd like to think of myself as a craftsperson who likes to build things. And this is a venture studio where I hire people as employees and they build stuff, and hopefully something good comes out, and some of those companies go out and become venture funded. Okay. And we've done about 8 or 9 projects, out of which 2 of them have already gone out and become pretty successful. I'll talk about some of them. And lately I've joined CureFit, which is a health tech business. Some of you may know about that. I won't talk too much about that role since it's a fairly recent one. But before I go in now deeper into the main slides, the meat of the talk, just want to get a quick assessment from the crowd so I know how to hone the rest of the discussion. How many of you are from the IT services world? So about a good chunk, about 60%. How many of you have worked in products? Okay, also a good number. How many of you are at a CXO level? Okay, not many. And people who are actually building stuff, coding or product managing or designing? Okay, a good chunk. So it's a good mix. The reason I'm asking this question is, what you will hear from this is my view of where I see services going. And the previous speakers have talked a little bit about this, and one view of the world is quite a dire view. And that view is services are moving into microservices, they're being offered by AWS and Google and so on. So what is the role for an IT services company outside? That's pretty dire, because otherwise you're left with just orchestrating whatever you get. And even for product companies, because if you're building a product, what is it that allows you to differentiate yourself from when a Google or an Amazon just packages that as a service within their ecosystem? And if you look at both of these worlds, actually, I don't have a good answer, right? So, when as a VC, I look at all of these SaaS companies coming and pitching and so on, the pitches usually sounds like, look, this is the market. You need software to be written for that service, so you build this service. I'm writing some HR management system or some sales system or some CRM thing or something, and I'm going to offer it as a service. But when you look at what AWS and Google and everyone else is doing, they can build that service too, right? And then where will you be? So the answer to this question is not apparent to me, right? And I have been struggling with this, myself, even as an investor. So, and I don't know the answer, but I'm going to propose an answer, and let's see if that resonates with you or not. Okay. So, first some context, and I'm going to talk about three products or companies that I have built or invested in or built in the venture studio. And then I'll talk about what the learning is from this. And then with that learning, I'll propose what I think can be a solution. Okay? So first one, Myntra. Oh, this clicker is pretty bad. So at Myntra, I mean, some of you may have read this, we built what is called Rapid, which is a AI fashion designer. Okay? And what this did was, it looked at all the sales data. Come on. Okay. So this AI designer would automatically, is there a better clicker? Okay. It would try to design clothes automatically, right? And it used various AI techniques for doing this. And in the initial design iterations would be pretty bad. And then it gets better as the design iterations go on. This is design iteration number 300. And then it curates and picks the best designs. And then it finally comes out with the right designs. And these tend to be top sellers with a 70% probability. Okay? This machine generated designs are some of the designs you can actually buy off of Myntra today. Okay? And there's a brand called Moda Rapido on Myntra that is all machine generated design clothes. Okay? And it just needs 30 days to go to live, including all the supply chain, procurement, everything else. This is happening today, by the way. Okay? And there's not just one brand, but there's multiple brands here on Myntra already. Okay? So this was the world's first intelligent fast fashion design. It sells great, it does great margins, and I think it contributes more than 50 million of revenue today to Myntra. Okay? So this short-circuited at Myntra the time to do the whole design process, procure it, and then do it from months, which typically it's a 6 to 9 month cycle from concept to actual revenue. And this is now from days and goes down to hours even. Okay? Another one. This is a product, you can use it as well, homefully.com, a small startup currently based in Craftworks, the venture studio. And what it does is, it's an AI-based interior designer. Now think about it, if you want to design your home, it has 4 or 5 rooms, typically it takes about 2-3 weeks for you to even get the first initial designs after telling all the specs to your designer. And it typically costs a minimum of about $2,000. Okay? Because the person has to spend that much time. Right? Even at $20 an hour, you're going to multiply and it's going to become a substantial amount. So instead, Homefully converts your floor plan into a 3D model and then furnishes it given all the rules that interior designers have in their heads. Right? So there is a designer involved as well, but instead of taking 2 weeks, with AI assistant, the designer can complete the interior design within a few hours and hopefully charges $50 for designing your house. Okay? Now it may not be the perfect design, you can tweak it after that, but at least you've got a sense of, okay, that's what I think it's going to look like. Okay? And with just a press of a button, you can say, no, I don't like contemporary style, I want modern. Oh, and boom, you get another design. So no, I don't want modern, I want my bedroom to be more colorful, right? And you can do all of that at just pressing a button, right? So this is another company that's come out of Craftworks called Kubrick. For those who are movie fans know that Stanley Kubrick is a movie director. And the idea was, can we make Stanley Kubrick in a box? You give a script in and you get the movie out, right? Now that sounds like too far-fetched, and it is. But it's not that far-fetched actually, right? The idea is that if I could take Shah Rukh Khan and create a 3D model of him, and I license him, and I say, you don't have to go to Switzerland to do the pose and everything else, right? I'll take some other characters, other junior artists, and I'm going to have them do all the things, and then I'm just going to superimpose Shah Rukh Khan's 3D skin on that person. That should be pretty feasible. There's already deep fakes today that you can't tell whether it's Obama saying something or not, right? So this is all very possible. And Kubrick, the product, does a very, very small version of it. What it does is, it takes an image of a bike. Sorry, you can take the volume. So it takes an image of a bike and makes a video catalog of it, saying, knowing how a bike typically runs. So the wheel doesn't just stay static, it rotates around. You can have shoes that flex and so on, all from the fact that I just have a 2D picture of the shoe. Okay? So to get these automated catalog videos, you don't need a video editor anymore. It's the creativity already being manifested by the intelligent systems. And it takes about $50 to $100 if you used a video editor to create a video like that. You get it for $1 in 5 minutes. Okay? So these are all products that are out live there. But what's the takeaway? So these are my learnings. There are several others I could tell you about. I've been working for the last 4 or 5 years in many, many products of this type, and I've started to think about what is common across all of them. And the next few slides is my learning, my takeaway, and it has an implication, I believe, on the future of that question that I asked about. Where is this whole services and products company going if that's all getting consolidated amongst 2 or 3 cloud players? So, learning number 1. Creative skills that we think are human can actually be packaged as SaaS services. Okay? Number 2, customers care about a human touch. They're not okay, that's why bots don't work out. A lot of people have tried to use sales bots to sell you stuff and so on. People don't like it. They want the human touch. But at the same time, if you ask them, do you want an interior designer for $2,000 who will listen to you and will listen to all your aspirations for your house? For $2,000? Says, no, not for $2,000. No, that's too much. Right? So they want the human touch, but they also want the low price. They want the beautifully designed clothes, but I want it at 50% discount. So this is the second learning. Right? So what can we do? So here is my proposition. Right? Off track. So this is what I'm going to call in the next few slides X as a service, where it's expertise as a service, where you use AI for the creative parts of it. And you're using humans just for the fluffy, soft touch aspect of it. It's the opposite of what we have been thinking about. What we've been thinking about is that we use CRM tools and everything else for the touch, and we use humans for the work, right? The creative parts of it. I believe it's actually the opposite. You should actually use AI and intelligence for the creative parts of it, and the humans for the customer touch points. Right? There, what happens is, the customers feel that it's a human that they are getting the service from, and the value proposition in their mind of that goes way higher. So you can make that video for $1, but if there's a human fronting that conversation, you can charge $50 for it. So this is my proposition, and I'll explain a little bit more in deeper what I mean by this. So let's step back. 1997 to 2017, these are the relative prices of anything you buy in the US. Okay? If you look at the things at the top, college tuition fees off the charts, education, healthcare, medical care, child care, food and beverages, transportation, all going up. What's going down? Software, toys, material goods, electronics. And yet, we have a room full of technologists, myself included, building software, right? And trying to sell that. What should we be selling, right? We should be selling education, healthcare, right? That's where the money is. That's what people want. That's what they're willing to pay for. They are not willing to pay for software and more electronics and more gadgets and more stuff. They're willing to pay for it, but not much. So, I think we've got it all wrong. So this is the shift that I think needs to happen. See, in the Industrial Revolution, we automated physical labor, right? But there were still a lot of jobs. They all went to China, but it still created a lot of jobs for people who were willing to work with the machines, right? So I'm proposing, it's not much of a change. It's all going to be the creative work for people who are willing to work with the machines. The fashion designers who are willing to work with the rapid system. The video editors who are willing to work with the Kubrick systems, and so on. And this is the new revolution that I think India can be a part of. But it means that the services companies don't look like the services companies here. They look like people that have designers in-house and doctors in-house and childcare people in-house and all of those things. Okay? Like Uber has drivers in-house, right? So we need to have that. Those are the new kinds of services companies we need to build. So it needs a new view of what X as a service means. We think of ourselves as software. We are building on a software, we're going to make it into a service, and we're going to launch it out to some B2B customers. I think that's wrong because software is deflationary, it's getting cheaper and cheaper, it's getting more consolidated, it's going to go away. I'm exaggerating, but. But we think of ourselves as, I'm going to build a finance tool, a marketing tool, a this tool, a that tool, and it's going to have some UI and some web view and blah, 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 blah. It's a wrong way to think about it. Right? What we should be thinking about is, I'm going to build a wealth advisor, I'm going to build a marketing video creator, I'm going to build a, I don't know, a fitness trainer, a doctor, something else. Right? The things that are inflationary. That is what we should be building. And to me, those kinds of X as a service companies are the service companies of the future. And this is a very, very simple one-box architecture diagram. Customers today pay $, for a bunch of experts. Okay? And here with all my 20 years of technology wisdom is the architecture diagram of what an X as a service company would look like. So it has a front end. So the person thinks that they're talking digitally, accessing it digitally to the doctor or to the childcare provider or whoever else. And behind the scenes, there is a human who is fronting the work and the relationship. But a lot of AI is getting used to make that human's work very scalable. Right? So these AI plus human kind of services is where I think India can actually excel at for a variety of reasons. We have the technical capabilities, we have the CRM, BPO, KPO expertise, we are the kind of people who can stitch it together, we have doctors available here at ridiculously low rates globally when you compare to the global price points. We have all the skills needed that need to get packaged and offer the services that I showed were inflationary. These are what I think are the biggest opportunities, and this is where I have been focusing my own time over the last 2-3 years to build these kinds of services. Health services, education services, marketing services, legal and financial services, not tools, not software-backed things, but human-backed things, or at least they seem as if they're human-backed things. And those expertises offered as a service is my, humble proposition as the way forward of where X as a service needs to go. That's all. I hope I've been in time. Any questions? there's a question out there.
So, one question. So, based on the learnings, what we got to know from you about Kubrick and all, how do we incorporate that into B2B segment? So, I am pretty sure that consumer focus is very much mature in terms of using AI-based tools and stuff. But for a B2B, how's the market maturity that you see, and how do we incorporate those learnings in a SaaS, B2B SaaS?
So for example, Kubrick.io is actually a B2B company, right? So it sells as a B2B service to other companies that need marketing videos. It is that the person you go and talk to in that company today uses something else. And what is that something else? It's an agency, right? So to get your marketing videos done, you go and talk to a creative agency. All US companies do this, and they pay about $50 for every video that is getting created. So all you need to do is to go and say, hey, we're going to provide you creative services, that same as that other creative agency. Instead of $50, we're going to do it for $20. And you'll be surprised how many people will jump at you for that, right? They don't know that you're actually doing it for $1 using AI. And this same thing goes for all of the other services I talked about. You provide legal contract review services, you provide transcription services, you provide, I can just go on and rattling off a whole bunch of services that follow the same model. Think about, the easy way to think about it is, go to any large company in the US and ask them, where do you use outside help? Right? Agencies or legal consultants or any of that. And every one of those dollars is an opportunity for an XaaS as a service. Sorry, you had a question.
So, Shamik, very interesting perspective indeed. Very interesting perspective indeed. Thank you, Shamik, for sharing your thoughts. You talked about software being deflationary with respect to how it has been sold from a pricing perspective, and services like healthcare, education being inflationary in nature. But AI at the back end is powered by software.
Yeah.
Now, if I take perspective of Indian software industry, Indian IT industry, okay, are you suggesting that for an Indian IT services industry to do well, the move towards productizing services, which are inflationary in nature, or push more towards creating back-end AI to offer creative services through a front-end practitioner?
I am arguing for the former, primarily because as soon as you start doing the latter, you will again become commoditized by whoever owns the customer relationship. See, I think, the previous speaker, Mr. Fanish, said it very well. Really, what I see as the big shift over the last 10 years are two factors. One is mobile and the other is cloud. And what people think about cloud is, we think of it as, oh, what used to be on-premise has moved to the cloud. But underneath, there is actually a more venomous thing that is happening, which is the market is also getting consolidated because of that into 2 or 3 providers. Now, when it becomes consolidated like that, it's a very dangerous thing for anybody else in any software provisioning thing, right? So, you think of them as not providing application layer services today, but they very soon are going to be, and there's no reason why somebody would not use their HRMS or their, financial or marketing service or whatever tool that you're providing. So even if you provide AI as a backend, there's no reason why Amazon could not say, okay, now it's SageMaker, blah, 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 and here's your AI backend, right? Hey, Amit. Sorry, can't hear you, Amit.
Hey, Shamik.
Yeah.
So my question was regarding a proposition that humans should be required for a human touch, software touch aspect. But with China coming with the automated digital newsreader, right? Do you think that's the only job left for the human touch, or is it like the expertise that the AI has to mature to should be aided by the expert over time until it matures?
Of course, I'm exaggerating when I say that they are just providing the human touch. What I mean is that when you're providing the human touch, you also have to provide a little bit of the expertise as well, right? But all the grunt work of, for example, doing a home design, I need to take the floor plan, I need to make the 3D, then the 3D I have to figure out where to put the walls, what colors they should be, all of that can be done. And now the person is now having a conversation, oh, I see you like warmer colors, and behind the scenes they're just pressing a button on the saying warm colors, and it becomes yellow, red, and so on, right? So they're having that, and they're able to understand and map it to what the AI is doing, but all the stuff that we think is creative today is actually not that creative. Yeah, please.
Hi, Shamak, this is Abhinav. I'd just like to challenge your proposition, at least from a pricing perspective, which is that if software is going to become deflationary in terms of pricing and human services are going to be more expensive, you'll probably see the same graph that you just showed in the US. You know, I mean, over time, human services, even to provide customer service, are going to become expensive. So isn't it circular, the argument?
Sorry, I didn't get why. See, what will happen, what I'm proposing is that these are inflationary services. If we don't do something about it, they'll become more and more unaffordable and become only for the rich, right? So having your own driver used to be something which is very, very only the rich could afford. And now with Uber, it's become something that somebody else can afford. So obviously, what I'm proposing is that things that get deflationary, as you provide AI or any technology to it, it actually starts, the inflationary curve starts either flattening or dipping down, right? So I'm proposing doing the same thing for the things that are going up and hence becoming unaffordable, and making sure that by using technology, we bring it back to the masses, right? Now, I'm not getting your argument of why by doing something like that, the ones that are deflationary will suddenly become inflationary. That I don't think will happen.
I think the argument is that if you look at the Western markets over time, even during their 70s and 80s phases of automation, human services generally were more inflationary. And therefore, this sort of curve took place. I'm just saying that if large things are going to be automated, human services in general would follow that pattern.
The pattern being that they would actually over time not become inflationary and flatten down. Is that?
No, they would in fact go exactly the same way as.
All have gone up, right? So my question is, with commonsensically thinking, with all the developments on the AI side and the digitization side and optimization side that's happening, why are these costs going up? Take education as an example, right? You know, 20 years back, you needed to find an answer to the question you used to buy a textbook. Today you can get it from 150 sources. So conceptually, these costs should have gone down, but they have gone up. And therefore, they are now the focus areas. And who knows, 10 years down the line, the graph might invert and these things would be down and something else would be up.
It's an interesting proposition, but actually if you look across even further back, our world and data where this graph is derived from, and you can actually twiddle the numbers and change the countries and all of that. And what you will find very interestingly is that this is not just a snapshot, but it seems like a fundamental truth. Right? Now I have my hypothesis why this is the case, but I'm not a sociologist to be able to explain why it is the case. But maybe we can discuss offline on why that might be the case. But I think that this is not something that is a flash in the pan for the last 20 years. I think it's a general trend and will become even more so if technology is not born to bear on it. Ourworldindata.org. Any other questions? Yep.
Increasingly with the cloud, a lot of the services that were delivered on site are increasingly now centralized and having the ability to go globally and to scale. When you start looking at it and bring the human touch element, there's a certain degree of disintermediation, of course, that is happening, but the traditional distributors, resellers, and all the others are now more sales agents rather than full service providers. Is that the way that you look at it?
I think that approach, your question was that, do you see, because of the human touch, that, the software service providers become more sales agent-y, right? I think that will probably be true, but I think it's not sustainable, because also the market will quickly realize that the value add of such a service is not very high, right? So my belief is that all software services largely either will get consolidated amongst the big players, or will have to become what is so-called in the VC industry called full stack, right? Which is that I also have the whole human element behind it, right? So if you're providing thin services, and I'm talking of all software that exists, even Salesforce as a thin service, right? So that's a pretty exaggerated claim to make, admittedly. But what I'm saying is that all of those kinds of services will get integrated into the three big powerhouses, and anything else that remains out will have to be full stack. That is the, if I take the argument that I'm making to the extreme and project out 20, 30 years, that's my belief of what's going to happen.
Any last questions?
Thank you, everybody.